Darren Pierce was sitting alone under the blistering hush of a late afternoon sun in Echo Ridge Park when the question slipped from his lips, soft, half drunk on thought, like it had clawed its way up from the marrow of his bones. What happens when the people meant to watch us forget we're watching them too? He wasn't talking to anyone, just speaking into the wind, the trees, the playground swings that creaked like they were remembering something. And maybe that's why no one answered. Or maybe it was because a second later they did. You, yes you, are seeing something no one else will, not yet. What you're about to witness isn't a conspiracy. That word's too cheap, it's closer to a splinter in your mind. The kind you can't pull out without bleeding truth all over the floor. This starts in a place we all recognize. A simple park carved into a town too normal to be real, where everything feels one notch too quiet, where the birds stop chirping just before something terrible happens, where even the sun seems hesitant. The woman wasn't doing anything wrong. She was just sitting on a bench, reading maybe, her skin deep as obsidian, her afro a soft crown. Her presence demanded nothing and everything all at once. That's what made it so strange when two officers rolled up like they'd been summoned. No calls, no reports, just instinct. You know that feeling, right? When the air changes and your body knows before your mind does. The younger cop with the blonde buzz cut, Michael Townsend, stepped out first, his voice falsely casual, like he'd been trained to sound like a friend right before the handcuffs snapped shut. "Ma'am, you live around here?" She didn't flinch, just looked up with eyes that had seen things, too many things. And that's when it happened. That moment. That rupture. She reached into her coat, slowly, and pulled out a badge so weighted the sun itself seemed to pause. CIA, real, heavy, sharp enough to slice silence. Townsend froze mid-breath. His partner, Rick Daly, stepped back like the earth had just tilted. You felt that too, didn't you? Here's where it breaks. Not just the story, but your understanding of what's possible. As Darren turned to film, what was happening, like the rest of us would have done, he caught something the camera didn't. The woman leaned slightly toward the cops and said something. A whisper. Quiet. Impossible to hear on the video. But Darren heard it, and then Darren was gone. No one saw him leave. He didn't run, didn't scream, just wasn't there anymore. One moment, filming with shaky hands. The next, only his phone. Still, recording, laying in the grass, pointed up at the empty sky. No footprints, no sound. Just one frame in the footage where a shadow passes over, quick and wrong, shaped like no human should be. And then the phone speaks, not in Darren's voice, not hers, but in the voice of his grandmother who died in 1998. Stop digging. They already know you're watching. Tell me, did you feel that too? Because now the file's open, and you're holding it. And somewhere, someone else just whispered your name. The phone kept recording. The voice, his grandmother's somehow, dripped through the speaker with a static too clean to be analog, too sharp to ignore. Stop digging, they already know you're watching. Then the screen glitched for just a breath, a half-second black frame. You'd miss it if you blinked. But if you watched it again, slowed to frame by frame, there it was, a face behind. The camera. Not Darren's, not hers. Not anyone you'd ever want to meet in daylight or dream of in the dark. But here's where it turns. Because this isn't some polished thriller, and there's no soundtrack to prepare you. Just the real kind of quiet that creeps in when something is missing, and you can't quite name what. That night, the footage leaked. It wasn't supposed to, but it did. Forums, telegrams, the dusty corners of the internet where people go, looking for real unsolved mysteries, the kind no one sane wants to solve. At first, it played like every other shaky park confrontation video, but then it didn't. Some say it was a deepfake. Others claimed it was an augmented psychological op. But there were things in the frame you can't replicate. The way the trees behind the woman seemed to bend away from her slightly, as if resisting her presence. The way light warped around her badge like gravity didn't quite apply. A few viewers reported seizures. One man in Nebraska claimed he couldn't remember his daughter's face after watching it. He just kept saying she had freckles and didn't she, over and over like a broken doll. And then there was the voicemail. 12 hours after the video surfaced, Amelia Gentry, Darren's, a nurse at St. Francis ER in Fort Worth, got a call from his number. Static, long, dragging breaths. Then a whisper she swore was Darren's. "I'm still here, but they cut the stairs. Don't look at the second door." She hadn't seen Darren in 3 years. Not since the spiral started. That's when people started noticing things. Inconsistencies. Timeline gaps. Text threads with Darren that ended days before the video supposedly happened, but no one remembered seeing it until now. Voicemails dated April that referenced events from June. And in the original video, a timestamp error. The frame freezes at 4:06 p.m., but the shadow of the swing keeps moving. None of this made sense. Unless it did. That's when the second voice came in. Through a comment, barely noticed. "You remember this differently. She never had a badge. She just smiled." That was the trigger. The comment was from someone named Tyler Greaves. No profile picture, no followers. Just one post, dated 2014. A blurry photo of a payphone with a handwritten sign taped above it that read, "Do not answer if it rings." It had 6 likes. 2 of the accounts that liked it deleted, the others dead links. A few users tried to contact Tyler. Most said the message bounced, but one user, iGlassMirror68, claimed they spoke to him. "He doesn't make sense," the user wrote. "He talks like he's remembering things backward. Says Darren isn't missing, says we are." That's how I got pulled in. I'm not a journalist. I'm not a cop. I'm not even sure who I am these days. My name's Jordan, and I think I knew Darren. There's a photo in my drawer, grainy, Polaroid style, dated 2012. Me, him, and someone else whose face has been scratched out, like with a nail or a key. But here's the thing. I don't remember taking it. I don't even remember owning that shirt. Lately, there are gaps in my memory, not like forgetting, like omissions. I'll wake up and the kitchen chairs are turned backward. The mirror in the hallway shows me blinking slower than I feel. My voicemail keeps filling up with silent messages timestamped at 3:11 a.m., even when my phone's on airplane mode. And then, 2 nights ago, I found a USB stick on my front step. No note, no packaging, just the word unedited etched in. Shaky handwriting across the plastic. I plugged it in. The video was the same one, park, officers, the woman, the badge, but longer. There was a minute at the end that hadn't been seen. A handheld shot, shakier now. Someone running, breathing, heavy. They duck behind a tree. The camera turns and you see her again, but this time she's looking directly into the lens. Her mouth moves, but no sound comes out. I replayed it, isolated the clip, boosted the audio, nothing. Until I reversed it. And then it spoke. "You're dreaming of the wrong life. Wake up before they finish building the other you." My hands were shaking. I tried to upload it. The file corrupted mid-transfer. Then the power in my apartment cut. 3 seconds of darkness. That's all. But when the lights came back, the USB was gone. I tracked down Tyler Greaves, not easy. He doesn't live anywhere. But he checks in, once every few weeks, to a shelter in Des Moines. I caught him out front, chain-smoking, humming something like an old hymn that never existed. He looked tired, bones tight against skin. His eyes, God, his eyes, not haunted. Vacant. Like whatever was supposed to live behind them got replaced with static. He wouldn't talk at first, just laughed. But then he said something I haven't been able to forget. They told me I was schizophrenic, said I made it all up, so I took the meds and did what they asked. And the more I did, the more I forgot. Until one day, I didn't even remember what I wasn't supposed to remember. I asked him about Darren, the woman, the badge. He leaned in, whispered so close I felt the spit on my cheek. "She doesn't work for the CIA. She works between agencies, the ones that exist in paper trails that never burn. You don't find her She finds cracks in people. I asked him what he meant. He didn't answer, just stared over my shoulder and said, "It's starting again. You smell the concrete shifting? That's them rearranging the city." I turned to look. Nothing there. When I looked back, Tyler was gone. Just like that. Gone. Since then, I've had dreams. Long corridors filled with doors I've never opened. Behind each one, a version of myself I don't recognize. Sometimes younger, sometimes older. Once dead. And always the same woman standing just beyond reach. Eyes like ink. Smile like a secret I'm not ready to hear. In the most recent dream, I was back in the park. But this time I was the one with the badge. The cops approached me, I said nothing. I just opened the leather fold and waited, and they vanished, one by one, into nothing. I woke up screaming, and now, I can't find any record of Darren Pierce. No birth certificate, no school records. The forums where the video was posted, gone, not deleted. Never existed. Amelia. I reached out to her hospital. They said she died last year. Hit and run, no leads. But someone's been calling me from her number, leaving voicemails with my voice. And last night, when I played one back, it said, "Stop writing this. You're only making it real." So, now I'm asking you, whoever's still watching, reading, breathing through the tension in your chest, how do you know what's real? How do you know your memories aren't staged? How do you know the second door isn't already open? And the better question, why don't you remember closing it? Because I just got another voicemail. This time it wasn't Darren or Amelia. Or my grandmother, it was the woman from the park, and all she said was, "You're next." Then silence, then knocking, but there's no door behind me, is there? It came in the mail like something from another time, sealed in an envelope yellowed just enough to trigger a memory you couldn't name. No return address. Just your name, written in red pen. Not ink, pen. The kind teachers used in elementary. School-to-grade spelling tests. Jordan held it like it was hot, like some part of him recognized the texture before his mind could explain it. Inside, a photo. Black and white, but not aged. Recent. High resolution. A picture of the park. Same. Angle as Darren's footage, but without Darren. Without the cops, without her. Just the bench, the shadows, and in the distance, clear as day. A figure standing alone, too far to make out, except for the unmistakable glint of a badge hanging from her hand. Jordan stared at it for hours. There was a sense, quiet but undeniable, that this was it, that he'd reached the border of whatever sickness or truth had infected his life. That all roads had led here. The evidence was building now, patterns repeating, details aligning. He found a news clipping from 1987 buried in a city archive, misfiled under an urban development. The article was small, almost nothing. Woman mistaken for federal agent during dispute with police. But the picture accompanying it, same park, same bench, and even in a grainy, printed-out black and white photo, the outline of her face was too familiar. The curls, the posture, the look. And there, standing beside her just over her shoulder, someone who looked exactly like Jordan. He wasn't born yet. That's when the memory hit, not like a flash, more like a weight dropped into a still lake rippling outward, touching everything. Jordan remembered sitting in that park as a kid with his mother. She used to hum the same 3 notes, while feeding him orange slices. The same tune Tyler had been humming outside the shelter. He could hear it now, clearly. 3 soft notes, low, steady. His mother would pause mid-hum sometimes, like she was listening to something no one else could hear. Once, she told him, "If you ever see someone watching and they don't blink, don't ask questions. Just turn away." It made no sense at the time. Now it did. Jordan felt the resolution closing in like a jaw. This wasn't just about Darren. This wasn't just about a video or a woman with a badge. This was generational, something that looped, something that found cracks in people and split them open just wide enough to crawl through. He thought about the second door again, the phrase from the voicemail. What had Darren meant? What door? That's when he remembered the house on Lockwood Drive. His family lived there for a year in 1998, after his father left. He was 8. The hallway had 3 doors, 2 bedrooms and the bathroom, but he remembered 4. He remembered a 4th. Deodor on the left, a narrow one slightly shorter than the others. His mother told him never to open it, said it was a crawl space full of insulation and nails. Dangerous, she said, but one night after a nightmare he swore he saw it open. Just slightly, and something behind it whispered. He never found it again until now. Jordan drove out there. The house was still standing, still painted the same chipped beige color, though the neighborhood had shifted. Fewer kids now, more cameras. He knocked, explained himself to the owner, an older man with tired eyes and too many locks on the door. The man let him in, muttering about dreams and forgotten tenants. The hallway was unchanged, 3 doors, but Jordan knew better. He ran his fingers along the wall, pressing gently, waiting for something to click. At the halfway mark, his nails caught the edge of something unnatural, a seam, a sliver of a door frame hidden beneath layers of painted drywall. It was there. It had always been there, and with the same breathless resolve that keeps people from screaming in their sleep, he pushed. The wall bent, and behind it, the door opened. It led down stone stairs, cold air, the smell of damp soil and metal. He should have stopped. Every fiber of his being screamed to go back. But it felt true. It felt like the last move in a puzzle only he remembered. The deeper he went, the more familiar it became, not visually, but emotionally, like déjà vu laced with grief. And at the bottom, in a room with no windows, no lights but the flicker of a hanging bulb, he found it, a wall of TVs. Dozens. Old, boxy analog screens, stacked and humming, though none were plugged in. Each showed different moments. The park confrontation, his childhood birthday party, Tyler humming in the shelter, Amelia crying in the ER parking lot. Moments no one had filmed. Private, quiet, internal things. And in the center screen, frozen in a single frame, Darren. Not missing, not afraid. Smiling. Jordan fell to his knees. This was the answer. The truth. All of it, looped, monitored, cataloged, a surveillance experiment so intimate it didn't need cameras. It needed memory. He finally understood. This was what they didn't want people to see. Not the badge, not the woman, but the realization that your entire life had been recorded from the inside. The glitch wasn't in the system. It was the system. He laughed. For the first time in weeks, laughed until he cried, and then one screen changed, not flickered. Changed, to live footage of him, kneeling in the room, staring at the monitors. He looked around, no cameras, but the screen was live, real time. Behind him in the screen's reflection, a door was opening. He turned, but there was no door in the room. And that's when the unraveling began. The picture that started it all. He looked at it again. This time the badge was gone. In its place, the woman held something else. A small recorder, the kind journalists used in the 90s. And in the corner of the photo, where the figure had once stood in the distance, nothing. No figure, no shadow. He flipped the envelope over. The handwriting was his. He had mailed it to himself. Back home, everything felt wrong. Slightly rearranged, the cereal boxes were alphabetized. The rug had 2 creases instead of 3. And on the answering machine, an old one he didn't own, there were 7 new messages. All from people he didn't recognize. All speaking in his voice. They told him things. About birthdays he hadn't had. About jobs he'd never worked. One message dated next week simply said, "Don't follow her again. You already died once." It was all falling apart. And then the memory came. The true one. Buried beneath. Years of false ones like rot under wallpaper. Jordan remembered the park. Not Darren's footage, not Tyler's story. His. He'd been there. He'd been one of the officers, briefly during training, fresh out of the academy. But there had been no video, no badge, just a woman on a bench, calm, still. And when he asked her to move along, she said, "You don't belong to you anymore." And then everything went black. He woke up in his bed the next morning, just assumed it was exhaustion, a blur, a missing hour. But now he knew. That was the moment. That was the first crack. Everything since had been after. The twist wasn't that. He found the truth. The twist was that he already had, and someone has something, rewrote him to forget. So now you have to ask yourself, why do you remember this story at all? And more importantly, what part of it did you forget? Because if the door's already open, what walked through it might not be you. Jordan sat in the dim glow of his apartment, the silence broken only by the faint hum of the refrigerator. The photograph lay on the table, its edges worn from constant handling. He traced the image with his finger, the woman's face etched into his memory. The badge she once held now replaced by a recorder, a detail that shifted with each glance. His mind, a labyrinth of fragmented memories and shifting realities, struggled to grasp the truth. The messages began subtly, a flicker on the television screen, a whisper in the static of the radio. At first, Jordan dismissed them as coincidences, the byproducts of an overactive imagination. But the patterns became undeniable. Numbers repeated in sequences, 3:33 a.m., 7:07 p.m. Symbols appeared in his dreams, an eye within a triangle, a serpent eating its tail. He found them etched into the condensation on his bathroom mirror, scrawled in the margins of his notebooks. TG. One night, his phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "You were right all along." Attached was a video clip, grainy, time-stamped 2 decades prior. The footage showed a younger Jordan, barely 10, standing in the park, staring at the woman on the bench. She turned to him, mouthing words that the audio failed to capture. Behind her, a figure loomed, its face obscured, watching. The clip ended. Abruptly, the screen fading to black. Jordan's heart raced. How could this be? He had no recollection of that day, yet the video was irrefutable. His past was being rewritten, memories manipulated. The realization struck him with a chilling clarity. He was not alone. Others were watching, guiding, perhaps even controlling the narrative of his life. Wikipedia. Determined to uncover the truth, Jordan delved into forums and message boards, seeking others who had experienced similar anomalies. He stumbled upon a thread titled, "Found Footage from 20 Years Ago, What the Government Never Released." The posts detailed accounts of individuals who had received cryptic messages, experienced shared dreams, and encountered symbols that defied explanation. They spoke of a force, unnamed yet omnipresent, weaving their lives into a tapestry of secrets and lies. One user, Observer X, stood out. Their posts were detailed, analytical, and eerily specific. They spoke of memory glitches, of events that never happened yet felt vividly real. They warned of a deeper force, one that thrived on confusion and fear, manipulating perceptions to maintain control. Jordan reached out, desperate for answers. The response came swiftly. "Meet me where it all began." Jordan knew the place, the park, the bench, the epicenter of his unraveling reality. He arrived at dusk, the air thick with anticipation. A figure approached, cloaked in shadows. As they drew closer, Jordan recognized the face. It was his own. The doppelganger spoke, voice calm yet devoid of emotion. "You've seen the cracks, the inconsistencies. We are fragments of a larger whole, pieces in a game we cannot comprehend." They handed Jordan a device, a recorder identical to the one in the altered photograph. "Listen," they said, before vanishing into the night. Jordan pressed play. The recording crackled to life, revealing a conversation between 2 voices, his own and the woman's. They spoke of experiments, of memories implanted and realities constructed. The woman's voice was firm. "They lied to you. Your memories are not your own, but you can break free." The weight of the revelation bore down on Jordan. His life, his memories, his very identity, fabrications woven by unseen hands. The symbols, the messages, the dreams, they were breadcrumbs leading him to this truth. But what now? Could he reclaim his reality, or was he forever ensnared in a web of deception? As he sat on the bench, recorder in hand, the world around him seemed to shift. The trees swayed unnaturally, the air thickened, and the shadows deepened. He felt a presence, intangible yet overwhelming. The deeper force the one Observer X had warned about was here, watching, waiting. Jordan closed his eyes, the symbols dancing behind his eyelids. He understood now. The conspiracy was not external but internal, a battle within the psyche. The only way to fight was to remember, to reclaim the fragments of his true self. But as the lines between reality and illusion blurred, he questioned whether he had ever truly existed at all. The recorder clicked off, the silence returning. Jordan opened his eyes, the park empty once more. But the dread remained, a constant reminder that the truth was elusive, and the watchers were always near. TTPS, WedEachGroup.com, Cryptic Codes, Esoteric Secret Societies, UTM, Source, ChatGPT.com. Esoteric Cryptography and Secret Societies, WTG, HTTPS, and Wikipedia.org Wiki QAnon, UTM Source and ChatGPT.com QAnon. Jordan sat alone in his dimly lit apartment, the walls closing in as the weight of his discoveries pressed down on him. The photograph of the woman with the CIA badge lay on the table, a silent witness to the unraveling of his reality. He had uncovered layers of deception, memories that didn't belong to him, and a network of watchers who seemed to know his every move. The truth was no longer about what had happened. It was about why it had happened, and what it revealed about his very existence. The messages had become more frequent, more urgent. Cryptic symbols appeared in his dreams, shared by others who claimed to have seen the same visions. They spoke of a force that manipulated memories, that controlled narratives, that decided who would remember and who would forget. Jordan's mind was a battleground, torn between the reality he had always known and the one he was beginning to see. He reached out to Observer X, the enigmatic figure who had guided him through the maze of his own mind. They agreed to meet in Not D Tupper, the park, the place where it had all begun. As Jordan approached the bench, he saw a figure sitting there, a mirror image of himself. The doppelganger looked up, eyes filled with a sorrow that Jordan felt deep in his soul. "You have questions," the double said. Jordan nodded. "Why me? Why this?" September C. Fox. The doppelganger sighed. "Because you were willing to see. Most people choose comfort over truth. But you kept digging, kept questioning, and now you're here." A silence settled between them, heavy with unspoken truths. Jordan felt the weight of his choices, the burden of knowledge that could not be unlearned. He realized that the truth might destroy him or set him free. It all depended on what he chose to believe. The doppelganger stood, placing a hand on Jordan's shoulder. "The final choice is yours, to forget and return to ignorance, or to remember and face the consequences." Jordan closed his eyes. Memories, flooding back, some real, some fabricated. He saw the woman in the park, the badge, the whispers, the watchers. He felt the pain of betrayal, the fear of the unknown, the longing for truth. When he opened his eyes, the doppelganger was gone. He sat on the bench, alone yet not alone, the weight of his decision pressing down on him. He knew that the path ahead was uncertain, fraught with danger and doubt, but he also knew that he could not turn back. The truth once seen could not be unseen. As the sun set, casting long shadows across the park, Jordan whispered to himself, "Some truths don't want to be found." Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for stories you were never meant to hear. Until next time, remember, some truths don't want to be found. https www.septemberfox.com 2019-04 Story Structure Explained Climax HTML. UTM source.chat GPT. Com. Story structure. Explained, climax, denouement, epilogues, and